After being reborn, I can get back everything I lost in my last life without having to do anything. In my last life, when I was critically ill, Leo refused to sign the informed consent form for the surgery. Because his first love pleaded bitterly, "I've been your lover for a lifetime. Now I have cancer and don't have many days left to live. Won't you give me a proper status before I die?" Since I occupied the position of Leo's wife and always refused to get a divorce, once I died, this problem would be easily solved. When Leo was torn between making a decision, the fluctuations on my heart rate monitor became a straight line. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on August 1st, 2004. Because in just 1 week, it wouldn't be me who was going to die. When I opened my eyes, the sky outside the window was still gray. By the dim light, I looked at the furnishings in the room, which seemed to be from 10 to 20 years ago. As soon as I regained my consciousness, I sat up from the bed with a jerk and asked Leo in a hoarse voice, "What's the date today and which year is it?" Leo seemed to be startled by me. He stared at the ceiling for a while before his eyes focused. There was a hint of impatience in his tone. "Can't you check the perpetual calendar yourself?" After that, he turned over and faced his back to me, wordlessly expressing his dissatisfaction. Leo had always been like this. Others thought he was a gentle and refined gentleman. Only I knew that he wasn't without a temper, but he just never showed it. Whenever he was slightly dissatisfied with me, he would start using the cold shoulder treatment. This way used to drive me crazy. But now I don't mind it at all. I looked up at the perpetual calendar to confirm the date. It was August 1st, 2004. Great. I was reborn before August 8th, 2004. Great. In my last life, there was always a faint presence of Stella between Leo and me. Leo and Stella were childhood sweethearts and grew up together. Even after I married Leo, the two of them remained very close. I suspected their relationship many times and asked Leo to keep an appropriate distance from Stella. But every time, Leo would look at me with the kind of eyes one would use to look at something dirty. He wouldn't say a word, but could sharply accuse me of having a filthy mind. He always had only one sentence: "Why do you always think of me in such a dirty way?" He didn't even give a proper explanation. He wouldn't even say the common line that men often say, "I treat her like a sister." Leo was cold, noble, and always disdained to explain. Then, let out a lull sigh. He would start the cold shoulder treatment for varying lengths of time. We were in the same room, but he refused to say a word to me. No matter how attentive I was or how much I apologized, he remained as cold as ice. This would continue until he calmed down on his own. That feeling was probably like that of a prisoner waiting for judgment, feeling helpless and living in constant fear. Besides suffering, I could only count the seconds to pass the days. We lived like this for 20 years. And I still couldn't confirm whether there was an improper relationship between them. A year before I died, I had a huge argument with Leo because I witnessed Stella kiss Leo. Leo proposed a divorce to me. The reason was that he couldn't stand my unfounded speculation. I was so angry that I pointed at Leo's nose and questioned him. "Did I see it wrong when Stella kissed you? How can you say I'm speculating without evidence?" But Leo still looked at me with cold eyes and slowly said, "She kissed me. Not the other way around. No matter what her feelings for me are. My feelings for her are not what you think. Is it my fault that someone likes me?" For the first time, I thought Leo was shameless and despicable. It might not be his fault that someone liked him, but was it right for him to openly enjoy that person's affection? I refused to divorce Leo. I wanted to make them both angry. I said, "As long as I don't get a divorce, you two will never be able to be together openly." I continued my marriage with Leo in a way that I thought would disgust them. But at the same time, it also disgusted myself. Until a year later, I had a car accident by chance. When Leo rushed to the hospital, I was already on the verge of death. The doctor urged Leo to sign the consent form quickly, saying that there was still a slim chance of survival if the surgery was carried out immediately. Leo picked up the pen, but Stella, who came with him, grabbed his hand. In the moments before my death, my 5 senses were infinitely magnified, and I actually heard what Stella whispered. She said, "Leo, I've been your lover for a lifetime. Now I have cancer and don't have many days left to live. Won't you give me a proper status before I die? Leo. Isn't this an opportunity given to us by fate? Leo. I've never asked you for anything. But I'm about to die. I just want to stand by your side openly. Even if it's just for one day. Leo's hand holding the pen stopped. He was torn between making a decision. But he didn't hesitate for long. Just a few minutes later, the fluctuations on my heart rate monitor had become a straight line. When the doctor announced my death, Leo had a confused expression. And it was hard to tell what he was thinking. Stella comforted him. Leo. It's not your fault. Even if you had signed the form, Mia wouldn't have made it to the operating table. Well, what Stella said seemed to be true. But it still couldn't stop me from hating Leo. Fortunately, having fulfilled my hindsight, I was reborn on August 1st. In 7 days, I would be able to get back from Leo what he had owed me. August 1st. Today was the first day of my rebirth. For breakfast, I didn't cook according to Leo's usual light taste as I used to. Instead, I made a pot of fragrant, spicy oil-splashed noodles. Leo sat at the dining table, frowning slightly and looking at me unpleasantly. He bent his left index finger and tapped the tabletop gently with his knuckle. His tone cold, Mia. When he opened his mouth, I could even smell the minty scent of his toothpaste, which was as cold as he was. I looked up at him and asked with my eyes what was wrong. In the past, without him having to say much, just by the way he called my name, I could tell what he meant from his tone. But now, I didn't want to bother. And I didn't want to continue giving him the convenience of acting superior. Leo seemed to be angry. And there was a trace of anger on his face. Do we need such a strong flavored meal in the morning? How am I supposed to eat this? I lowered my eyes and raised my eyebrows. If it doesn't suit your taste, you can go out and eat. With just this simple sentence, just a breakfast that wasn't prepared to his liking, Leo actually got angry. He lowered his voice and called my name again. Mia. It was still my name. But I could hear full of accusation in it. I pointed to the drawer on the shoe cabinet by the door. The spare change is in there. Take it yourself. Leo stood up with a sense of alienation and anger. Before he went out, I called out to him. Leo. There are still 7 days. He slowly turned around, and there seemed to be a bit of unfamiliarity on his face. He squinted his eyes slightly and asked me, "What did you call me?" In my last life, even when I was angry, I wouldn't call him by his full name. But now, looking into his eyes filled with confusion, I called his name again. Leo. Without any emotion. Calm in the face of honor or disgrace. Leo's eyes carefully examined my expression. After a while, he actually opened his mouth to explain to me. Yesterday, there was an event at school. Stella's scarf was torn by someone. And we couldn't find the same color and style immediately. I remembered that you had one just like it. It was my oversight to lend it to her without your permission. If you mind, I'll buy you a new one. Reminded by him, I remembered that such a thing had happened. The scarf Leo brought back had a strong scent of a woman's perfume. And I had been angry about it before. So it happened yesterday? But now, I didn't care at all. I said, no need. Leo was slightly taken aback, as if thinking about something. And then turned around and went out. When it was almost time to get off work in the evening, there was a knock on the door. It was Stella. Sister Mia. Leo brought me your scarf to use yesterday. He returned it to you before I could wash it. The scarf must have my perfume smell on it. I'm afraid you'll be unhappy. So I came to wash it for you. Okay? Although Stella said words of apology, there was a provocative look on her face. It seemed that my reaction didn't meet her expectations. So she continued, Sister Mia. Don't be angry. I didn't know this was the birthday present Leo gave you. Having been reborn, this kind of provocation had no effect on me at all. I sneered and turned aside to make way at the door. Come in. Stella was surprised and said, Sister Mia. You're not angry anymore, right? I knew you were the most generous. I frowned and said, why don't you come in? How can you wash it if you don't come in? Stella let out a sound, as if she didn't understand what I said. I said coolly, weren't you going to wash the scarf for me? What? Just talking but not doing it? Stella didn't expect me to be so straightforward. She could only come in reluctantly and took the scarf to the bathroom to wash it. Looking at her back, she seemed very aggrieved. Soon, let out a low sigh. Leo came back. He was holding a new scarf in his hand. Before he could give it to me, he saw Stella washing the scarf. Hearing the commotion, Stella immediately turned to look at him. Tears rolled down her face, and she forced a smile at the corner of her mouth. Leo, you're back. I'll finish washing Sister Mia's scarf soon. TSK. In just this short sentence, the grievance in her tone could fill the Pacific Ocean. Leo looked at me with extremely cold eyes and said, Mia, you're going too far. See, heading till selvmide sigh. Even though I didn't do anything, Leo still blamed me without distinguishing right from wrong. I didn't give him a chance to get angry and said briefly, she came to wash it herself. It has nothing to do with me. Leo's anger was stuck in his throat by my words. He couldn't vent it nor swallow it. He turned to look at Stella. Stella cried and explained. I thought since I used Sister Mia's scarf, I should wash it clean before returning it to her. Leo reached out and tapped Stella's forehead. Why would I let you work so hard? I pretended not to see anything and let the two of them act in front of me. Stella was overjoyed when she saw the scarf in Leo's hand. Leo, is this for me? I said I liked it yesterday. And today you went to buy it for me? Leo gave me a look of embarrassment. I understood that look. He wanted me to take the initiative to agree, so that he wouldn't be in a difficult situation. But I just looked at him quietly and didn't say a word. Seeing that I didn't speak, Leo retracted his gaze and nodded at Stella. Stella happily left with the scarf. I looked at Leo with a sneering smile on my face. He looked at me with a bit of awkwardness and apology. Stella washed the scarf for you at our house. She must have been really wronged. Giving it to her is like our apology. Mia, I'll buy you another one tomorrow. I said, there's no need, and turned around to go back to the bedroom and closed the door by the way. Generally speaking, in such a situation, Leo, who has a strong sense of self-esteem, would directly go to another room and go to bed. But today, I don't know what was wrong. He, who never did housework, actually took the initiative to wash that scarf clean. August 2nd. Leo, there are still 6 days. I said to him again before he went to work. He still frowned slightly but didn't ask anything. Mia, don't be so unreasonable even if you're being playful. He stretched out his finger and pointed at the empty dining table. Are we still going to live like this? It's about time you stop being angry. I didn't have an appetite this morning, so naturally I didn't want to get up early to cook. Leo thought I was being angry on purpose. I ignored him. I cooked a more sumptuous dinner. There was no other reason. Just because I wanted to eat it. It's not easy to cook for one person. With a little effort, I ended up making a whole table of dishes. Leo was quite satisfied when he saw the table full of food after getting off work. He gave me an appreciative look. It seemed that he had thought too much. But I didn't plan to correct him. Just when we were halfway through the meal, Stella came again. She was holding a small gift box in her hand. She stuffed the box into Leo's arms. And her face was full of shyness. Leo, thank you for the scarf you gave me yesterday. Here. This is my return gift. When the scarf was mentioned, Leo's face changed slightly. There was a bit of guilt in his eyes as he looked at me. Mia, I was too busy today and forgot about. Perhaps to prevent Stella from thinking too much. Leo didn't even mention the word scarf. I smiled unfairly. It doesn't matter. Seeing that I wasn't angry, Leo's embarrassed expression gradually relaxed. Stella, who had been ignored, wasn't happy. She said in a copaceous voice, Leo, aren't you going to open the gift I gave you and take a look? Leo looked at her with a doting expression and opened the box in front of me. 9 pairs of men's underwear were neatly arranged inside, all in bright red. Leo looked embarrassed. But Stella said, I thought for a long time before I came up with this gift. This year is the year of your Chinese zodiac animal. And you should wear red underwear. Do you want to check if the size fits? Stella pretended to be innocent. But Leo looked at me nervously. Mia, it's not what you think. Before I could say anything, Stella hurriedly said, Sister Mia, don't get me wrong. I treat Leo as my brother. As a sister, it's not too much to give my brother a few pairs of red underwear on his Chinese zodiac animal. Right? Sister Mia. Don't think too much. I put down my chopsticks, wiped my mouth, and looked calm. I didn't say anything. It's just a few pairs of underwear. It's nothing. Then I turned around and went back to the room, closing the door and locking it. Stella's voice came from outside the door. With a bit of a choke, Leo. Is Sister Mia angry? Leo sighed and comforted her softly. No, you're just too thoughtless. How could you give underwear to another man? Stella was unconvinced and retorted in a low voice, you're not another man. Leo pulled her to sit down and have dinner together. Although I cooked the meal, it was after all the leftovers I had eaten, so I didn't mind. As for leftovers, in my eyes, there's no difference between them eating it and a dog eating it. After dinner, the two of them played and washed the dishes together before Stella reluctantly left. Leo saw Stella off and then gently knocked on my door. Mia, are you asleep? I didn't respond. Leo turned the doorknob and tried to open the door, but found that it was locked. He said outside the door, Mia, I treat Stella as my sister. We grew up together. We are indeed a bit closer. But there's no romantic relationship between us. Otherwise, I would have married her directly. Do you understand? Leo, who never bothered to explain a word in my previous life, has explained several times in just 2 days in this life. But who cares? I didn't react. And the voice outside the door didn't sound again. Section id article truck August 3rd. Leo. There are still 5 days. Leo, who was changing his shoes, paused for a moment, turned around to look at me, and said seriously, I'll throw away the gift Stella gave me yesterday. She's too thoughtless. But she doesn't have any bad intentions. Don't hold it against her. I frowned. Leo, did I say I hold it against her? Leo carefully examined my expression and nodded. That's good. Just as he was about to go out, he turned around and asked me, Mia, what do you mean when you say there are still 5 days? He finally couldn't help asking me. I thought, could the doubts in his heart now be as tortuous as mine in my previous life? In my previous life, I always wanted to know if Leo really liked Stella and if he really treated her as a sister. It wasn't until I was on the verge of death that I knew the answer. Now Leo is asking me what my countdown means. I smiled slightly. You'll know when the time comes. Leo, however, showed an expression of understanding. Then, Mia, I'll be looking forward to your surprise with peace of mind. Surprise. I don't know what expression was on my face. When Leo saw it, his eyes shrank, looking at his leaving back. There was actually a bit of a feeling of running away in a hurry. But today, until it was time to rest, Stella didn't show up. I was really not used to it. August 4th. Leo. There are still 4 days. I think my tone should be getting more and more cheerful. Leo looked at me in a particularly strange way today, as if he was trying to avoid something. I didn't have the intention to investigate. I made an appointment with 2 good friends to go on an outing. Since I was reborn, I hadn't asked my friends out to play. My friends booked a hotel and said that the buffet at noon there was good, but when we arrived, we saw the welcoming standees of Leo and Stella in the lobby. The man was in a suit, and the woman was in a white wedding dress. They really looked like a perfect match. But unfortunately, it wasn't legal. My friends were stunned and asked me cautiously, Mia, when did you and Leo get divorced? I said in a very relaxed tone, if I remember correctly, Leo and I are still legally married. My friends stood there in a daze. But I didn't care at all. I even invited them, come on. Let's go to my husband's wedding with me. I just don't know if we'll be welcome. After all, no one sent us an invitation. There weren't many people in the wedding hall, but it was decorated very warmly. Stella and Leo were standing opposite each other, and everyone was egging them on, asking them to kiss. Stella was very proactive. She directly pressed her lips against Leo's, and Leo didn't push her away. My friends were so angry that they directly pulled me towards the stage. Before I could walk over, Leo looked up and happened to meet my gaze. He became visibly flustered. He strode up to me and said in a hurry, "Mia, it's not what you see. Stella's grandmother is dying. And before she passes away, she wants to see Stella get married. I'm just filling in. We're just trying to make the old lady happy." Before I could say anything, my two friends immediately started shouting, "Leo, do you even hear what you're saying? Are all the unmarried and single men in the world dead? Do we need a married man like you to pretend to be the groom?" If her grandmother knew about this, even if she were dead, she'd be pissed off all over again by you guys. What? You two were so into the kiss that even 8 horses couldn't pull you apart. Was that also to make the old lady happy? Our appearance caused chaos at the scene. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, I witnessed Stella kiss Leo with my own eyes. And Leo coldly explained to me, "Is it my fault that someone likes me?" At that time, Leo was still haughty. As if I was really being unreasonable. And now, Leo looked extremely embarrassed. He looked at me pleadingly, "Mia, can I explain it clearly to you when we get home?" Of course. I wouldn't miss this opportunity to kick a man when he's down. My voice was clear and there was no trace of sadness. "You've already married someone else. What else do you have to explain to me? Leo, is it really that difficult to admit that you cheated? That you fell out of love with me and fell in love with someone else? And that you're a scumbag?" While I was enjoying his embarrassment, Stella rushed over. She dragged her long wedding dress train and stood in front of Leo, like a female beast protecting her territory. "Sister Mia, come at me." I begged Leo to help me. She looked so righteous. As if she were a warrior fighting against some evil force. I nodded, "Huh? Help? Help to be your husband? Stella, is someone else's man really that good? Or are you just naturally cheap and like to eat someone else's leftovers?" Stella's face turned extremely ugly. And her delicate body swayed. "Sister Mia, I just asked Leo to make a guest appearance. Why are you insulting me like this?" I nodded and asked without feeling ashamed, "Then what kind of guest appearance did you want him to make when you went to my house and gave my husband underwear right in front of me?" The guests at the scene were in an uproar. I didn't notice if Stella's parents were present. Anyway, having fulfilled my obsession, no one was protecting her. Oh, except for Leo. He turned around and protected Stella behind him. His face was red with anger as he accused me. "Mia, the bun. Do you have to make everyone so embarrassed? What's the benefit for you if everyone is put in an awkward position?" My friends wanted to scold him again. But I pulled them and left the scene. It wasn't for any other reason. I just was afraid that too many unexpected things would affect the development of the following plot. After all, in a few days, I still have to get back what Leo owes me. It's coming soon. It's coming soon. There are still 4 days. In the evening, Leo came back very late. I had already locked the door of my bedroom. But Leo stood in the living room for a long time. I could hear his footsteps pacing back and forth in front of my door. I could also hear him going back to his room and then coming out to continue pacing in front of my door. Back and forth. Over and over again. In the middle of the night, Leo gently knocked on the door. "Mia, if you're not asleep, can we talk? I really just wanted to do her a favor. Mia, trust me." I turned over and went back to sleep. August 5th. Today, I didn't have a chance to say to Leo, "There are still 3 days left." As soon as I got up in the morning, Leo was extremely attentive to me. He said, "Mia, I took a day off today and don't need to go to work. I think we've had too little communication. Today, I want to give you a good explanation about my relationship with Stella. It's really ridiculous. I've lived 2 lifetimes and made progress. Unexpectedly, Leo has also made progress. He can even realize that there is a problem with our communication. Unfortunately, the problem isn't with the communication but with him as a person. I remained silent. And Leo chattered on behind me. "Mia, let me explain it to you first. You will definitely understand. Right? Then we'll go to the department store together. I'll take you to buy that red scarf you like." Only then did I remember that Leo still hadn't bought the promised scarf. I turned to look at the balcony. And the one he had washed was still hanging there. The bright red color was a bit blinding. Leo followed my gaze and his face turned red all of a sudden. He hurriedly ran over, took down the scarf, and threw it into the trash can. Mia, I know you don't like it. I'll throw this one away. I'll buy you as many as you want. Let's buy new ones. Okay. Mia? I still didn't say anything. And Leo became even more uneasy. In my last life, he had never been so nervous. In our marriage, he was always unhurried, neither too close nor too far away. He firmly held the initiative. Whenever there was something about me that didn't satisfy him, he wouldn't say anything but just look at me coldly. And I would always rack my brains, analyzing my words and deeds bit by bit, desperately trying to figure out what was wrong. Slowly, I became more and more without a bottom line. Like a donkey pulling a mill with its eyes blindfolded. And still worrying that the flour I ground wasn't fine enough. In these few short days since I was reborn, I treated him the way Leo treated me. The relationship between us has actually reversed. I've become the calm one. And Leo is gradually losing his dominance. Although I don't care at all. Leo was talking nonstop to me when the phone at home rang. Stella had slit her wrists and attempted suicide. Leo was extremely worried and was about to rush out without even changing his shoes. Leo! I called out. Leo turned his face and then reprimanded me again. Mia, can't I explain it to you when I get back? Now that Stella has attempted suicide, aren't you the least bit guilty? I looked at him mockingly. Why should I feel guilty? Leo said, if it weren't for your disruption yesterday. How could so many things have happened? I was so angry that I laughed instead. I rushed forward and slapped Leo hard. Had you lost your mind? Not to mention that Stella isn't dead. Even if she were. What does it have to do with me? You two have done something wrong. And you want to put the blame on me? My voice grew louder and louder. Are you unconvinced? Then do you want me to make this matter public? Even to your school? And let all your teachers and students judge who's right and who's wrong? Leo was indignant and threw out 4 words, unreasonable. And he rushed out the door. I called out to him from behind again, Leo. There are still 3 days left. Leo's back paused for a moment. And then he quickly disappeared. That night, Leo didn't come home. And I had a sound sleep all night. August 6th. Leo didn't come back until the evening. It was obvious that he was exhausted. Leo sat on the sofa like an overworked old ox, gasping for breath. And I still ignored him. However, I still said a word to him. Leo, well, there are still 2 days left. Leo stared at me for a long time. The inquiry in his eyes even turned into intense unease. Finally, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He composed himself and asked me, Mia, what on earth is going on? What do you mean by, there are still 2 days left? What are you planning? I smiled but refused to answer. Leo, you'll know when the time comes. Leo started to get irritable and angry. He paced back and forth in front of me, waving his hands constantly. When are you going to stop torturing me? Mia, I've already explained to you. I have no relationship with Stella at all. I just treat her like a sister. Why don't you believe me? I watched as he became more and more irritable, no longer having the calm and composed appearance he had in my last life. Probably I looked as ugly as he does now in my last life. Incompetent, manic, and angry. Since that time, the day after I lent your scarf to Stella, you've been acting strange and neurotic. You're not like yourself anymore. What's with this? 3 days, and 5 days. What kind of game are you playing with me? Do you know that you're torturing me like this? I've said it many times. I'll buy you another scarf. Why are you still not satisfied? What on earth do you want? Tell me. Tell me. Looking at Leo in this out-of-control state, I felt a wave of satisfaction in my heart. It's really relieving. How many times was I like this in my last life? And now he finally gets to experience it. I slowly opened my mouth and said, Leo. Yes, Kolkana. You said you'd buy me another one. But 6 days have passed. Where's the scarf you promised to buy me? Leo's face turned red. He moved his mouth as if he wanted to explain to me. I didn't give him a chance. I know you're busy. Very busy. Leo's eyes showed agreement. And I changed the subject. You were busy buying a scarf for Stella. You were busy accepting the panties Stella gave you. You were busy washing the dishes with her. You were busy getting married to her and holding a wedding. You were also busy taking care of her when she attempted suicide. Staying with her for a whole day and night. Afraid that she might do something stupid. So, you couldn't even spare half an hour to buy a scarf. Leo had nothing to say and could only promise me. So you're still angry about this? Mia. I will definitely buy the scarf for you tomorrow. I didn't comment, but Leo's expression relaxed a lot. He thought he had figured out the reason for my madness. Unfortunately, the next morning, he started to feel panicked again. August 7th. Leo. There's only one day left. As soon as I said this, Leo, as if having a stress reaction, didn't look well at all. Now he couldn't control his temper at all. And he didn't have the standing to get angry at me. He could only try to suppress his voice and ask me, didn't we sort things out last night? Don't worry. I'll buy the scarf for you today. After that, he rushed out of the house directly. The next second, Leo's voice came from the corridor, Stella. Why are you here? Stella leaned weakly in Leo's arms. Leo. I went out to buy something. I'm really out of strength. And my head is spinning. I saw that your house was nearby. So I came to ask you for help. Can you send me home? Well, today is Sunday. And Leo doesn't go to work. Stella showed up right on time. Seeing Stella's weak state, Leo looked back at me. Mia. I'm going to send Stella back. You can understand. Right? She's in this state. I can't just ignore her. Right? I nodded, indicating that I understood perfectly. Although I agreed readily. Leo was very hesitant. He asked me repeatedly, Mia. You don't blame me. Do you? You can understand me. Right? Do you really understand me? For the thing you want, can I buy it for you after I send Stella back? I was so annoyed that I directly closed the door and went back to the room. Leo went out and didn't come back the whole day. It was not until the moon was shining and the stars were sparse, and it was pitch black outside, Leo finally came home. I had already closed and locked the door of the bedroom and gone to rest. Leo said outside the door, Mia. I will definitely buy it for you tomorrow. There was so much guilt in his voice that it seemed to overflow. Unfortunately, hadn't fulfilled way. I didn't care. But I couldn't fall asleep either. Today is the last day. August 8th. Finally, hadn't fulfilled my say. It's August 8th. I'm in an unusually good mood today. I rarely showed Leo a few pleasant expressions. Leo was actually as happy as a fool. I said to him, Leo. I'm going to take back what you owe me today. Leo said, Mia. With that tone of yours. It seems that I don't owe you just a scarf but a life. Huh. He actually guessed right. He said, Mia. I'm going out to buy the scarf for you right away. You won't do anything to me. Will you? I don't know why. But I always have an inexplicable sense of panic. I smiled and said, Leo. I won't do anything. Although things in this life are different from those in my last life, I firmly believe in my heart that this thing will definitely happen. I smiled and watched Leo go out. Sure enough, he still didn't come back at noon. In the evening, it started to rain heavily outside. The sky was like a torn curtain. At night, Leo still didn't come back. He didn't come back the whole night. I really didn't do anything. Early the next morning, I finally received the call I had been waiting for all week. On the other end of the phone was a policeman. Are you Leo's family member? We found Leo's body on Shanjiang Road. Please come and identify it. My voice was calm, as if I had expected it. I said, okay. Leo died on the rainy night of August 8, 2004. He died on the way back to my home from Stella's house. The road was slippery on the rainy night. Leo accidentally fell and hit his head, causing a cerebral hemorrhage. The visibility on the road was poor, and there were few pedestrians. No one found him until he passed away. The policeman asked me why I wasn't sad at all. I told them that my husband had already cheated on me. He had even held a wedding with his mistress. And my friend could testify to that. And before he died, he had just come out of his mistress's house. The policeman looked at me with sympathy in his eyes. August 12th. It has been several days since August 8th. The news that Leo had an affair with Stella and died on the way out of Stella's house spread throughout the school. Unable to bear the pointing and gossiping of others, Stella disappeared without a trace. And I couldn't care less. After all, being given a second chance at life is a great blessing from God. Because I was reborn on August 1st, 2004. Before August 8th, 2004. I don't have to do anything. I just need to wait patiently. In my previous life, it was already midnight on August 8th, 2004. And Leo still hadn't come home. Looking at the severe weather outside, I was extremely worried. Regardless of the potential danger, I rushed into the rain and carefully observed the situation along the road. I walked along the road from my home to Stella's house. The journey that usually took only half an hour, took me over an hour this time. From a distance, I just happened to see Leo slip and fall, and he didn't get up for a long time. I threw away my umbrella in a panic and ran over anxiously, only to find that Leo had fallen into a coma. There were no cars around, so I could only carry him on my back and move step by step in the direction of the hospital. It was a long time before we were noticed by a passing car. The kind-hearted passers-by took us to the hospital. After more than 4 hours of surgery, Leo finally got out of danger. The doctor said that if we had come a little later, even the greatest of gods couldn't have saved him. However, when I was lying in the hospital, Leo was reluctant to sign the consent form. Because his first love pleaded desperately, "I've been your lover for a lifetime. Now I have cancer and don't have many days left to live. Won't you give me a proper status before I die?" Since I occupied the position of Leo's wife and always refused to get a divorce, once I died, this problem would be easily solved. While Leo was torn between the two choices, the line on my heart rate monitor became a straight line. Although even if he had signed the form, I wouldn't have been able to survive, but I still couldn't help hating him. Leo had us endo. He owes me a life. In this new life, I will get back the life he owes me. Fortunately, God has been kind to me. I don't have to do anything. As long as I do nothing, it's enough. Extra story: Leo Mia is my wife. And she has changed. Ever since she found out that I lent her scarf to Stella, she has been different. She suddenly doesn't care about me anymore and stops being jealous of Stella. She also started counting down the days for me out of nowhere. I originally wanted to give her the cold shoulder, but this time it had no effect at all. She started ignoring me and giving me the silent treatment. I lowered my pride and coaxed her twice, but there was still no improvement in her attitude. So, I agreed to Stella's absurd request to pretend to be the groom and hold a wedding. I know that Stella likes me. But did I really cheat? Is it my fault that someone likes me? I stuck to my bottom line and didn't sleep with her. I just enjoyed the feeling of being adored. Mia burst into the wedding hall and made a scene. Surprisingly, I was actually happy. Does this mean that she is still the same person as before? The Mia who cares about me, loves me, and puts me first. However, when we got home, she still gave me the countdown. It took me a long time to figure out that she was angry about the scarf. Oh well, women are really troublesome. Just buy another one. Right? Although I haven't bought it yet, I did promise to do so, didn't I? On the day when her countdown ended, I suddenly had an illusion. It seemed that what Mia wanted wasn't just a scarf, but something as precious as my life. This feeling was so strong that I tentatively asked, "Mia, if I buy you a scarf, you won't do anything to me, right?" She smiled and promised that she wouldn't do anything. Finally, having fulfilled my absai, I bought the scarf, but Stella called me to her house. Somehow, I still went. It rained heavily that night, and Stella wanted me to stay over. That was out of the question. I still have my principles. So I decided to go home in the rain. But on the way, I fell down, and my head hit a stone by the roadside. I felt that death was getting closer and closer to me. On the verge of death, I actually saw Mia come. She carried me on her back for a long time until we met a kind-hearted driver who took me to the hospital. I survived. The doctor said that if we had been a little later, I would definitely have died. After that, our days went on as usual, just like before, until more than 20 years later. Mia saw Stella kiss me. She made a big scene. And I was so annoyed that I proposed a divorce. But Mia refused. The following year, Mia was in a car accident and was admitted to the hospital. The doctor urged me to sign the consent form. But Stella said, "I've been your lover for a lifetime. Now I have cancer and don't have many days left to live. Won't you give me a proper status before I die?" Mia occupied the position of my wife and always refused to get a divorce. Once she died, this problem would be easily solved. While I was torn between the two choices, the line on Mia's heart rate monitor became a straight line. The doctor announced the news of Mia's death to me. I was dazed, and I vaguely felt that I seemed to owe Mia something. What exactly was it? Later, when I married Stella, I found out that the so-called cancer was just an excuse she made up. I missed Mia more and more. One night, I suddenly remembered that Mia had saved my life on the night of August 8, 2004. Mia? Where is Mia? It was still pouring with rain in front of me. And Mia never showed up. She really did nothing. It turned out that as long as she did nothing, death was waiting for me. I regret it. The end.